This is The Big Breakdown, a long look back at some of the biggest stories we're covering for you at the Hidden Killers Podcast and True Crime Today. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacy Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Well, good morning, America. We got some more interesting things to report to you today about Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. I mean, they're both in prison for the rest of their lives. But the new events, Chad's letters, we're going to get to some of Chad's letters. We have letter 4, letter 5, and if we're lucky, there might be a 6 and 7 coming soon. They said that he was going to be dropping new ones every single week on certain days of the week. We'll see if we get new ones as he slowly divulges his version of the story. And it is kind of fascinating. And some are like, why are you giving it credence? I don't know, because it's a crazy story. And trying to get behind the minds of some of these people is what I find really fascinating. So that's coming up. Also, Bob Motta going to be joining us in the second hour. We're going to be talking about the Aaron Spencer case. That's the father whose daughter was SA'd by a horrible, horrible predator who then got parole, showed up at his house, kidnapped his daughter in the middle of the night. Aaron realizes his daughter's gone, goes out, finds him, and shoots him. He has to literally run this guy off the road. And in an act of self-defense, and well, because you kidnapped my daughter, he shot him. And now Aaron Spencer is being brought up on murder charges. Insane. Bob has some things to say about that. So do we. We'll have all that coming up. So be sure to hit subscribe and stick around for it. But first, Todd, Stacy, are you guys prepared, I guess, for this? I know, I think, Stacy, you've heard of this. You've heard the letter. We've talked about the letter before.
Yes.
But never quite like this.
I'm so stoked. I have a little quiz that we can play later on if you'd like to throw it in.
Oh, yes.
I've got a couple of questions that we can just do a little. Is it Chad Daybell or real life? Chad Daybell or Oingo Boingo? That kind of thing. Chad Daybell or fancy restaurant. So yeah, we'll play that a little bit.
Awesome.
I'm really stoked about the fact that there's going to be a new letter coming out like weekly. I mean, So I look forward to Taco Tuesday. So maybe I could add like Daybell Thursday or something. So let me know what day this comes out on.
We should have tacos with Chad's letters. I think that should be good. Well, they so far have not really been following their release schedule. They did say something about trying to put them up on Mondays. I saw the other day, but there was no new one yesterday. So there's still only 5 up on the website every Monday, or planned for Monday and Thursday. So maybe Thursday we'll get more, but we did get 5 out of the gate. So, maybe Chad needs to take a breather.
Early. Yeah, and if we can get a little something to get us through the weekend, that would be ideal.
I agree. But we'll get to more of Chad reading his story in just a little bit. But first, let's go to this. Now, this is a story like you've never heard in this way before. I can't tell you the amount of times we've read this letter on the air. I've lost track. Yeah. But this is now produced with music, with Chad's voice. This is something I would suggest turning on before going to bed.
Do we need to dim the lights?
Yes. Dim the lights.
Candle?
I tell you what, I sat on my porch yesterday with my laptop making this, and I did. I was literally on my porch making this, and I was finding the music and I was piecing it together. I'm like, yes, right there. Then we hit the one that kind of sounds like porn music, and then it hits.
That's the spot right there.
So, yeah. So it's quite a production. We'll pause as we go through it and discuss, but this is the infamous James and Elena letter as written by the prophet himself, Chad Daybell. And this was originally sent to Lori via text, and I did not edit or change any of the verbiage. So when you hear weird words being thrown in there, this is Chad's writing verbatim.
Stop a second, Tony. So for those of you on YouTube, you can see this. If you're just listening to this, you're missing a huge visual here. There's a picture of, well, I'm assuming it's AI Chad Daybell wearing basically a suit coat without a shirt underneath. And as a woman, I feel really conflicted here.
You're turned on, aren't you?
No, I'm trying to not look at it.
Oh wait, it animates. Like once this thing starts playing, it starts moving. So yeah, and so does Lori.
Look pretty good. It looks like he works out.
Does it? Or does it look like he went and got a Claiborne suit at the in the female section at Marshall's?
Well, a little bit of that. It almost looks like there's shoulder pads in there. So I guess maybe I need to see more of it to figure out exactly where I stand.
I think he went to Burlington and bought a female suit.
Buckle in, Stacy. This is good.
Oh no. So, I need a little warning for this stuff. Please don't spring this kind of thing on me, okay?
Oh, you know what? You knew this was coming. This is
not this.
Here we go. This is the letters. Here we go. This is the James and Elena letter on American Top 40.
Friday morning, October 26, driving south on the freeway. A voice said, "You will meet an extraordinary woman today who will change your life forever." This was shocking, since such a thing seemed very unlikely at this conference. It is actually a very detailed story that began long ago on another world, and I will cover that part as I go along and the characters figure things out. But on the morning of October 26th,
love letter, by the way,
James arrived in St. George, still a bit baffled by the message he had received. He unloaded his books and set up his table, then joined the organizers for dinner in the main room. He saw his friend MG, who had been so helpful to him when he spoke in Mesa that July. MG introduced James to her friend Elena. When their hands touched, he felt a shock pass through him, and his heart started beating fast. Elena was gorgeous and vivacious, and James was a little intimidated, yet honored that she would talk to him. He was happily surprised when she mentioned a key part of his novel, The Renewed Earth. No one had ever recognized the significance of that scene before. He had heard that voice before and seen that smile before. He felt they had even talked like this before, but who could be certain when? It was strange, but he could remember. Feelings were very strong, as if they had known each other oh so long. They didn't get many chances to talk after that because he had to help voice a woman's blue Muppet. But he watched her every chance he could.
I'm sorry, what?
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 Look, this is part of the joys of the Chad Daybell letter. There's shit that like autocorrect did on his phone and he never fixed. So he had to help a woman voice her blue Muppet. And I don't know what the hell that means.
Oh, no,
Elmo.
wait, no.
Elmo's
The
red.
kids, that's what the kids are calling it these days. So
Is there anybody besides the Cookie Monster who's blue?
Grover.
Yeah, Grover.
Thought he was green.
No, that's
Grover.
Oscar.
That's Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar.
Get your
Okay.
Muppets right. Jesus. I mean,
I'm
that's
a little
really...
distracted by Chad and his chest, okay? Give me some grace right
He
now.
has no. I think he shaves it. Or do you think
That's
he's
a
just
wax
naturally hairless?
That's wax.
Oh God.
That's got to be a wax.
He struggles to get hair.
You guys.
So yeah, I'm warning. There's going to be moments like that where you're like, what? Like, is that no, this is literally his writing. He had to help her voice her blue Muppet. So
what in the hell do you think the word was?
I could not figure that one
I don't know. Voice her blue Muppet.
Because a lot of it doesn't make sense. And there's also a lot of points in here where he like just kind of talks about people without giving any context to like why they're important to the story.
Oh my God. Do you ever have friends who do that? All of a sudden they start talking about Becky and she did this and you're like, what?
Who? Yeah.
I've never heard of her before in my life.
And I always feel bad because I'm like, should I have been paying more attention? Like, should I know who this is?
Right.
And it's like, and it's no, you really can't. I don't talk like that to people. Like, I don't just like bring people up and I'll give context. Like, my friend so-and-so said this, and I'll usually give too much of a backstory.
Yeah.
And, but it's just like, why? Okay. And that's always a weird thing. I don't get that.
So can you reset this for me? He sent this in a text to whom again?
To Lori.
To Lori.
To her. Yeah. So this was supposed to be, and this is all came out in evidence. It was just supposed to be like this real, lovey Harlequin romance type love letter where he's basically James and Elena are these two, and he's giving them these character things, and he's actually recounting how they met, because they met at a end of the world conference.
That's right.
And this is kind of it's retelling their story with slightly different characters. And loin fire, which when you hear that word come up in here, that's real. But he does misspell it at another point too, and he ends up saying something else. But loin fire is the word initially, and it's I don't know, it's pretty hot and steamy, everybody. So I'm just warning you.
So is he sending this love letter via text?
Yes, it's via text. Yeah. A lot of texts.
Oh my God. Thank God he's got an unlimited plan.
I mean, it's like a 30-minute text once we get through the whole damn thing. But that's all, like, I don't know how many, bloom, bloom, bloom that took to get through.
I wonder if she had an iPhone, because my battery would never have held up for that many texts.
I don't know. And this was like early on in iPhone times too. So
yeah. That's some serious battery power to be receiving text after text after text.
My mind went to, what was she doing while these texts were coming in? Because if she was in the middle, hold on, I'm not necessarily going
loin
there.
Firing is what she was doing.
No, she was firing her loins. That's the terminology.
More appropriate. Let me clarify that.
Yes. Okay. I was just wondering, like, if you're in the middle of your day and you're trying to get stuff done, and all these texts are coming through, right.
God,
another
one. Oh God, now his loin is on fire. Oh God, all right. I got to get the laundry done at some point.
What's for dinner? We're gonna have pork loin fire. No. Let's continue with it.
All right.
Tibbs' house that night, but he hardly slept. He kept envisioning himself with Elena in very wonderful situations that indicated they had been more than just friends.
Oh, God.
James was the first speaker on Saturday morning and knew exactly where Elena was sitting. He made sure to mention the scene from his book that they had discussed the previous evening. He was completely smitten by her and even was nervous of what she would think of his talk as he spoke. But when he would glance at her, she was always attentive and watching him, unlike the rest of the crowd. After his talk, he went to his book table. His talk had gone well, and there was a good group gathered around to buy books. His heart nearly leaped out of his chest when Elena joined him and helped sell the books. She was so beautiful that he could hardly concentrate on the customers. She straightened the books and gave the books great reviews, although she made him laugh a lot when she kept pushing the youth and fifth volumes of his first series. He could only giggle when people asked if she was his wife, because yes, in fact, she was. She just didn't know it yet. James was definitely having amorous feelings toward Elena as they sold books together. He had not felt this happy in his entire life. He was quite sure this was the woman the voice had told him about. James was ecstatic because he had already fallen deeply in love her. Or better said, he remembered how much he already loved her. Her eyes had mesmerized him from the moment they met, but once the book sales slowed down, she stood near him behind the table. They looked deeply into each other's eyes for the first time, and he knew he was in the presence of a goddess. He resisted an impulse to kiss her, but his entire body was on fire. He instinctively knew she was everything he had ever dreamed of. I must clarify that James is a very difficult person to get information from. He has been blessed with great knowledge, but 99% of the people he knows do not realize that. He is very guarded, and it is a great task to gain his trust. But as Elena leaned forward him and asked a couple of very insightful questions, his heart burst with joy. He knew she was one of the very few people on earth he could trust. James's spirit was so excited at this revelation that he shattered a thick veil that had been placed between these two souls during their mortal lives. The thick veil had been placed because of the unique, unparalleled love James and Elena had shared in previous lifetimes. That veil had prevented them from finding each other until this appointed day that would be remembered throughout the heavens as the true beginning of a spectacular mission that would save millions of souls and defeat the forces of darkness. James' physical attraction to Elena was almost overwhelming, but he was equally drawn to the spiritual energy that was radiating from her. As they talked, it was confirmed to him that they had indeed been married before and were eternal companions. He had glimpses of them walking dusty paths together, and he realized they had been married during the life of Jesus Christ, and they had been very close to him.
Oh, God.
At this time, their spirits could not be restrained any longer, and a long-awaited makeout session took place in that lobby. This was manifest in the mortal world to James and Elena through the scientific phenomenon known as loin fire. As they talked, James had a burning desire to make love to her, but he wasn't sure she felt the same way. But they could not stay away from each other.
Stop.
One time, she was sitting in a couch near his table,
Yeah, let's stop for
and
a
he
second.
took a seat on a chair.
Oh,
The
God.
scientific phenomenon known as loin fire.
I am not familiar with that.
It's a scientific phenomenon. Apparently, you did not pay attention in class that day, Stacy.
I don't know what to say.
It was right after the periodic table of elements. It went to the LF. It's an element that very rare, and you find it only in Chad Daybell's pants, in his Dockers. That's where you find that element, the LF, in Daybell's Dockers.
Limited edition pants.
Only available at Land's End.
Yes. Oh my God.
Loin fire.
Nothing is more of a turn. I don't know. How do you, I have to be careful what I say here. Have you ever in your life done dirty talk with somebody and somehow brought religion into the dirty talk? I mean,
No,
Never.
thank God.
I mean,
No.
loin fire and Jesus came within just stanzas of one another.
It did. It really did. I think that's what makes this so weird and creepy is that it adds like extreme religious beliefs into some sort of, sexual encounter and them having makeout sessions in the temple or God. Yeah. Well, let's continue on and learn more about loin fire.
God.
For about
I need to
5
know.
feet from her. She began to squirm and covered her body with her hands. She asked him, "What are you doing?" He wasn't aware of what she meant. All he knew was that if Bruce Porter hadn't been giving them an evil eye, a child would have been conceived on that couch. The erotic tension continued throughout the afternoon. James could only think of her. His desire for her was indescribable. Thankfully, she had worn 16 layers of clothing to survive the 80-degree weather, so he was not fully aware that she truly had the body of a goddess. Her dimensions were exactly what he had always fantasized about, but that revelation would have to wait a month. As the night concluded, James needed to take his empty boxes to his car. With Elena's help, he had sold more books at a show than he ever had before.
So many.
She helped him carry the boxes to the car, and then he could not resist the desire to hug her. He made an awkward attempt that was way too brief, because their friends were bringing more boxes. In that short embrace, though, he knew he had found the woman he had searched for his entire life. It was made crystal clear to him that they had been married before and would be again. He once again had to fight off a powerful urge to kiss her and somehow disguise the massive erection he was experiencing. They returned to the building, and he held.
Are you leaving? Where is she going? Oh my God.
I tell you what, fucking Bruce Porter. God damn that Bruce Porter that was giving him the evil eye. Otherwise, they would have made a baby on that couch.
He's always around when you don't want him, that freaking Bruce.
God damn Bruce.
I need to go turn the air conditioning on. I'm having a hot flash and I'm really concerned.
I wonder if Bruce, when he heard this letter, was like, oh, that's what they were doing.
Oh, gosh. We've lost Stacy. She's gone. Boom, boom.
Bruce Porter. Bruce Porter. Bruce Porter.
Oh my God.
Let's listen to more Chad.
Carry tables to the second floor while she sat on the couch. They couldn't take their eyes off each other. He was already madly in love. Her group of friends finally had to leave. He was devastated, unused how he would ever contact her again. Then her spirit took over and asked him, "Can I get your cell number in case I have some questions?" They exchanged numbers, and then they gave each other a hug goodbye. It was the most wonderful, electric, delicious hug he had ever felt. Then he watched her walk away, knowing she was truly going to change his life forever. End of chapter 1. Chapter 2. James sadly walked to his car after watching Elena disappear down the hallway, but he couldn't deny their connection and his absolute attraction to her. She still seemed way out of his league, but he nervously sent her a text before driving to his hotel. A minute passed, then 2, without a response. He kicked himself for thinking he ever had a chance with her. Then his phone buzzed. Elena had texted back. His heart soared, and over the next few hours they texted back and forth dozens of times. He knew she was staying at a home in Tokerville, and he desperately wanted to drive there and whisk her back to the hotel for a night of reconnection and romance. He twice got redressed during the night to go see her, but the spirit gently said, "Have patience. Everything will work out as it is supposed to." They finally stopped texting at around 4 a.m., and when he closed his eyes to sleep, he was taken again to their previous life together. The intense passion of their lovemaking was as sight to behold. He knew it would be difficult, but he could be patient if it meant he could experience that type of love just once in his life. As he lay in the hotel bed, it was as if her spirit had joined him.
Uh-oh.
They wrapped around each other and kissed gently, then intensely, and the emotions they shared were not of this world. James woke up in the hotel room feeling happier than he had in his entire life. It felt like he and Elena had fit together perfectly in every way. He rolled over to kiss her, but then reality struck. She was actually more than 20 miles away in Tokerville with her Arizona friends. He texted her, and she quickly responded. He deeply regretted not going to be with her the night before. It was as if he already knew the taste of her lips, and his hands knew every curve of her body. He knows his dreams were somehow real, and that they were actually traveling to each other in a higher dimension. He hungered for her in ways he didn't think were possible. The voice was right. Elena was going to change his life forever. He packed his suitcase and began driving north on the freeway. As each mile passed, James could feel Elena's spirit beckoning for him to join her. As he approached the Tokerville exit, it took every ounce of willpower to keep driving on the freeway. His attraction to her was beyond magnetic. He felt their souls were two halves of an eternal union. Tears filled his eyes as he passed the freeway exit. He desperately yearned to embrace her and tell her he deeply loved her, as crazy as that sounded. But he knew he would be seeing her 3 weeks later at a conference in Arizona. It seemed like an eternity away, but he sensed it would be a very significant weekend for them. He already was crazy about her, and his feelings of admiration and affection for her would only grow more intense and wonderful. During his long drive home, James was able to text back and forth with Elena, and it was clear they were extremely compatible and shared the same interests. It felt like talking to a long-distance best friend. When he arrived home, he searched the internet for anything about her, but there was nothing. She was a fascinating mystery that he wanted to spend the rest of eternity with. At the end of his drive, she suggested that they talk on the phone the next day. He was thrilled at the thought of hearing her voice again. He was falling more madly in love by the minute. When James heard her voice that Monday morning, the euphoria he had felt Saturday came rushing back strongly. They talked for 2 hours, but it seemed to be only minutes. He was obsessed with her and couldn't get enough. During that first phone conversation with Elena, James realized she already had a strong understanding of many of the truths he had been taught regarding how the universe really worked. The lounge fire and obsession with each other had no real explanation unless they truly had a spiritual connection before this life. He was able to help clarify many of the promptings and impressions she had felt in recent years. She knew she had lived on Earth before, and James was able to clarify when. They had been married before on this Earth and other times on a previous Earth. Their love truly spanned the universe and eons of time.
Not
They
delusional
knew the
at
Lord
all.
had brought them together again for a crucial mission that only they could accomplish as a united couple. During the next week, they spoke every day for at least an hour, but often longer. They hungered to know everything about each other.
Hunger.
This was a new experience for James to open up and share the true feelings of his heart, but he knew he could trust her completely. The bond between them was intense, and only the vast distance between them kept their passion for each other from roaring into a blazing inferno.
Roaring.
She quickly became his best friend. Or better said, two best friends had reunited, and their prior love was now ignited again in a wonderful, heavenly way. As November began, James and Elena had talked on the phone every day since last seeing each other. He was extremely impressed with her intelligence, personality, and subtle humor that made him laugh more than he had in this lifetime. She was a complete delight to talk to, and the highlight of his day was when he could hear her magical voice. It was so familiar to him, and it actually healed and soothed his heart and soul. They would both attend the same event in mid-November, and it seemed like that day would never arrive. Each day they opened their hearts to each other a little more. James knew he could trust her with the mysteries of the universe that had been revealed to him. He knew they had been married before, and they had been close friends with the Savior when he lived in Jerusalem. James had served in an important position in the Lord's church, and Elena had been his beloved spouse and best friend. That relationship was now meant to continue in this lifetime. In Jerusalem, James and Elena had enjoyed tremendous intimacy. Their physical desire for each other was unmatched, and they were fortunate that they could be alone morning, noon, and night, and they seized every chance to passionately express their love to each other. They simply could never get enough, even after many years of marriage. Everyone knew they were crazy about each other, and they were a wonderful example of how spouses should cleave together in love and unity. James had visions of how they would happily and joyfully pleasure each other in his office.
Oh my God.
They had two favorite positions that particularly bonded them together. Nothing meant more to James than holding Elena in his arms and unifying their bodies in perfect synchronization. As James and Elena talked on the phone, he tried to delicately describe their connection to each other, and he was delighted that she believed him. He also shared that they had been married other times on a previous world, and she accepted that information as well.
Let's pause for a
James
second.
was overjoyed to have these memories restored.
The voice from above would like you to pause, Todd.
Satan says pause.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, and in my mind, I'm a big game show fan, so I'm going, the password is cleave. Bing. I've never heard that word used in that way. Ever. Cleave.
A lot of words he's using in ways that are not how they're supposed to be used, but he likes to insert them. It's like Mad Libs almost.
God,
The
this
way
is
he
so disturbing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
He rambles on, and the story is the story, blah, blah, blah. And then it just always gets, even for a dirty letter, it gets freaking gross.
What?
I mean, it's just...
Yeah.
Here's what I mean, it's hilarious because it's so screwed up. But what I'm wondering about what's going on here in this letter is he's trying, like, in his mind, he's trying to woo her. And I think they're both nuts. But I think part of his wooing is manipulating and constantly telling her what she wants to hear over and over and over. And I'm guessing at some point in this relationship in real life that they have, she has some desire to believe that they were married in a past life, because if there's any phrase that comes up in this thing on a crazy frequent basis. It's they were married in a past life. They had this in a past life. They were together in a past life over and over and over and over. I'm guessing it's just repeating it more and more. So she believes it more and more. And it's all like a ruse to like get her in bed, because clearly that's the goal of this insane letter. But he's speaking to the weird things that speak to her and I think speak to him too in a lot of ways.
I was just going to say, I think it has a lot to do with how he thinks things need to be for this to be right, to almost come up with a reason why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
So if they were together in a past life when Jesus was around, that would feed his need to make this seem okay.
Then it's totally okay that his wife dies and that her kids end up dying, because look, they were tight with Jesus. You know, they used to go over there on Wednesday nights and they was
this was meant to be. This was
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. Let's keep going.
All right.
To him because he truly loved her with all of his heart. He knew they were meant to be married again and complete important missions together before the second coming. He was ecstatic that she was receiving confirmation of these things as well. As they talked on the phone, the spiritual connection was so intense that it also produced physical desires, and it was as if their spirits were making love despite the great distance between them.
Sweet.
James knew his spirit was visiting her during those conversations. He also became aware that his spirit would visit her at night, and they would wrap around each other in a sensual embrace.
Wow.
Kissing her was so wonderful and real, and he knew that the next time they saw each other, he needed to kiss her. He wouldn't be able to resist holding her. He was absolutely in love with her in every way. By the time the conference arrived, James and Elena had become very close through their phone conversations, but he desperately needed to see her again. She agreed to pick him up at the airport and take him to his hotel. He was extremely nervous, worried that the spark they had felt earlier might not be there. But as she arrived at the airport and he opened the car door, his heart nearly burst at the sight of her smile. She was stunningly gorgeous, and as they gripped each other's hands, the electricity was tangible. The love between them was powerful and real. The hotel was only a short distance away, and he invited her into the room. They were soon standing alone in the room, and he put his arm around her and looked into her gorgeous blue eyes. They hungered for each other, and he leaned forward and fulfilled a promise he had made to her a few days earlier. He gently kissed her tender lips, and the same heavenly electricity filled his entire body. The passionate magic they had felt many centuries earlier came surging back powerfully. James moved to the couch, and Elena straddled him effortlessly, as if they had done this thousands of times before. She fit perfectly on him, and they pressed their loins tightly against each other. The feeling was exquisite. They both smiled and moaned at the sensations passing between them. They were still fully clothed, but the intensity of the intimacy was undeniable. James felt the powerful desire to bless Elena at that time. As they stayed in that favorite position, he moved his hands to her head and began to cleanse and purify each part of her body. He could feel the pains and troubles she had endured throughout her life, being removed from her soul and being taken outside and destroyed. James's hands worked their way down her body and lingered briefly on her beautiful breasts. She truly had the body of a goddess, and he was experiencing an indescribable mix of physical and spiritual ecstasy.
Okay, I gotta stop.
Yeah, go for it.
I cannot. Here's the thing. I am not a prude in any way, shape, or form. Right? There are things about myself that I would never ever share with anyone in my fucking life. But here's one thing I do know. That part of me does not want Jesus anywhere near that part. So like, while this guy is sitting there talking about having relations with this woman, and he is going to bless her, he's going to anoint her
in their favorite position,
in their favorite position. And I'm sitting here going, I don't want any religion anywhere near that part of my life. Like that is the part that truly Satan can be around if he wants, because that's what, but not Jesus.
You're breaking out the crucifix midway. Hang on, honey. Let me get something out of the drawer over here. Oh, what do you got? holy water and a crucifix.
Yeah, right. Like, what's the disappointment on your face when that happens?
What?
Because you're hoping it's something else. Jennifer said, "Poor Todd, you look embarrassed." Yes, I am.
Well, can I just throw this out here for a second? Let's take the murder out of this, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
What if these are two people who have found each other and everything just is clicking and working, and oh my God, they are falling in love with each other?
Okay.
It happens. And this wasn't ever meant to be out in public. This is between them. So part of me is just like, I'm kind of sad for them and embarrassed. I mean, again, take the murder out of this, because you put that in and the whole thing is, it's a different story. But how many people have not these conversations, but these feelings where, oh my God, I feel like I've known you my entire life, kind of a thing?
Well,
absolutely. I get that.
That's normal.
I get that.
But you don't usually bring up loin fire in those conversations.
But what if things are getting a little hot and steamy? I mean, and he's not a very good storyteller.
And the Son of God rarely comes up in conversation unless it's at that pinnacle point of the connection, of the cleaving.
I have not been cleaved recently, Todd.
Well, that's another whole episode where we could work on getting that done for you. But now that I think of it, I haven't cleaved in a while either. So.
You gotta get the crucifix ready. You gotta have all that ready for the loin fire when you cleave. Because
my goodness.
Otherwise,
oh, God, you guys.
There's more.
Okay, let's go. Stand by.
He soon concluded the cleansing of her body from head to toe, then filled her body with a balm of light and love. James could see the happiness in her eyes, and instinctively their mouths came together again. The fire was burning strongly within them both, and as their kissing grew more intense, he gently said, "I love you, Elena." Those words sparked a frenzy within them, their tongues effortlessly entwined, and their hips gyrated in a smooth, erotic rhythm. Two lovers, long separated, were finally united in heavenly bliss. After a few minutes of excitement, pleasure, and fun on the couch, James and Elena both felt compelled to change into more comfortable clothing. James out in some athletic shorts and a blue shirt, and Elena put on a stunning black top and tight leggings. The top revealed just enough, but not too much, and James was overjoyed at the sight. James took her in his arms, and they smiled at each other. The vibration in the room was intense, and their hearts reached out to each other in a glorious reunion. James gently touched the sides, if Elena's breasts, and he was in ecstasy. She stood on her tiptoes and gave him a sensual kiss that sent electricity throughout his body. They moved toward the bed and were quickly entwined.
I'm just wondering if their favorite sexual position was missionary. I don't know.
And enchanting that James could hardly breathe. They were both aroused, but knew there were limitations on what could occur that night. But they kissed for nearly an hour and pressed against each other tightly. Toward the end of the evening, Elena lay on her stomach at the end of the bed, and James caressed her fabulous body. He grasped her perfect bottom with both hands, and she expressed how much she loved that. She soon sat up and straddled him again as they passionately kissed farewell. They knew they would see each other again in the morning, but the separation seemed too long. But they knew that the long wait to find their eternal match had come to an end, and James was overjoyed beyond description. James and Elena had agreed to visit the temple the following morning. She returned to the hotel room, and after additional romance on the couch, they calmed their nerves enough to give each other a blessing. As James placed his hands on her head, he connected with Elena's true eternal self. He knew he was in the presence of an exalted goddess who had returned to Earth to perform a special mission. This mission included being with him, and they would progress together as translated beings. The full plan wasn't yet completely clear to him, but the immense power radiating from her confirmed his belief that she was among the greatest women in the universe. She then gave him a tremendous blessing that helped him realize how much she truly loved him and wanted to be with him forever. He was deeply humbled that such an incredible woman regarded him so highly. His heart burned as she blessed him, and he had glimpses come to his mind of not only their life in Jerusalem, but even as a couple on a previous earth. He knew they had been eternal companions for
Are these
eons,
all euphemisms,
and
by
that
the
their
way,
love
blessing
was
and stuff
beyond
like that?
celestial.
I don't know.
They embraced following the blessings, and the emotions they felt were a mixture of eternal bliss and celestial desire. The sexual chemistry was undeniable, but the spiritual unity was a glorious bonus for them both. They had only known each other for 3 weeks, but two lonely, misunderstood souls had finally found their best friend that they could trust and confide in. They arrived at the temple, and they both felt they should do sealings together. They were soon seated in a sealing room, facing each other.
Hell's that?
Elena looked so stunning as she smiled at him. She
like
seemed calm, while he felt quite nervous. Their opportunity soon came to kneel across the altar from each other, and as the sealer pronounced those sacred words, James and Elena knew that they were now sealed as husband and wife for eternity. As the earthly sealing was taking place, a similar scene involving their spirits was happening on a higher plane, where they kissed and unified their souls. They knew they had just begun a new journey together that was eternal and never-ending. After the sealing, they went to lunch together, and they felt so comfortable together. Everything felt so right. James could look into her eyes forever, unless he was gently kissing her and telling her how much he loved her. Even when they held hands, there was a powerful vibration that exceeded the celestial world. They attended the conference, but their thoughts were completely focused on each other. James gave a talk that was well received and sparked great interest in his books.
I bet Tammy Faye Baker's listening to this in heaven going, Jim never did this for me.
All they really wanted was to slip away and express their love to each other. They went to dinner with some friends, but afterward they were able to find some time alone. They drove to a secluded area and slipped into the back seat. Elena was wearing a pair of incredibly sexy jeans, and as she straddled James in the back seat, he once again grasped her fantastic bottom. She pushed him back into a reclining position, and their loins fit perfectly together.
Bless it.
They kissed passionately and rhythmically pulsated against each other. Their love was intense and undeniably real. James was now madly, crazily in love with her, and it was so wonderful to know she felt the same way about him. One powerful moment happened earlier that day when Elena was listening to another speaker while James stayed at the table. But he thought he heard Elena say, "Come stand behind me." He went into the room and saw her standing against a wall. He moved behind her and they discreetly touched. After a few minutes, he checked his phone and saw she had texted him that very sentence. At the stone, he heard her voice. It was a wonderful testament that they were already communicating with each other on a higher level. They helped clean up the conference, and Elena graciously allowed James to stay in a spare bedroom at her home that night. They visited with other friends until after midnight. Then they all went to bed. James anxiously hoped Elena would join him in the spare room. It took a while for everyone to settle into their beds, but once the house quieted down, James opened his door slightly and saw the wondrous sight of Elena approaching the room. They locked the door behind her and quickly got under the covers. He was wearing his athletic shorts, and she was wearing tight, thin leggings and a loose top.
Oh, God.
They clung to each other and kissed desperately, hungrily. James placed his hands under her top and caressed her splendid breasts. She moaned happily and wrapped her legs around his waist. Only two things, layers of material, separated their loins, and they could feel each other's most intimate body parts in detail. The
We need a
intensity
loin count,
spiritual
is what we need.
vibration exceeded anything either one of them had ever felt before. They knew their spirits were actually intimately joined together, and it felt like they had left the celestial world. Elena soon got on top of James, and the rhythmic ecstasy continued for several more minutes. Toward the end, they both removed their tops, and they pressed their bodies together, skin on skin. They fit together perfectly, and their kisses were deep and frenzied. Their desire for each other was beyond compare. As the reunion in the spare room came to a conclusion, Raphael knew Elena was his perfect match. They longed to stay entwined together, but it would be best to separate and get some rest. But by 6 a.m., James couldn't stand to be away from her any longer. He slipped into her bedroom and stood at her bedside. She was unbelievably gorgeous, and he greatly desired to join her in the bed and continue the previous night's activities. But there were other guests in the house who weren't yet aware of their sizzling love for each other. So he gently touched her shoulder to awaken her. Her eyes opened, then she reached up and grabbed his arms to pull him into the bed. He smiled, realizing she wasn't fully awake and had likely been dreaming of him. He simply whispered that he loved her and hoped she would go walking with him through the neighborhood. James and Elena had enjoyed a walk together the previous morning along the quiet streets of her gated community. The sensual attraction between them had been intense, and they had touched shoulders and held hands as they walked. They were like magnets that couldn't be separated. She had worn exercise leggings that drove him crazy with desire. The leggings emphasized her perfectly sculpted bottom, and it took all of his willpower not to pull her to him and grasp that bottom firmly and powerfully with both hands while kissing her passionately. They went walking again that next morning. Unfortunately, a friend invited herself along, but James and Elena were still completely engrossed in each other. He had to catch a flight home later that morning, but he was able to give Elena a special blessing before departing. As he placed his hands on her head, he felt their spirits connect with a surge of power. At that moment, his only desire in life was to be with her as always throughout eternity, and that desire has continued to intensify. During the blessing, he was shown the great missions they would perform together. He knew this was an eternal union that would forever change the world. Tears filled his eyes to be in the presence of this holy goddess, and he was nearly overcome by the spirit as he sensed her true place in the universe as a majestic archangel. End of story.
Okay, can I share something that happened here?
Yeah, please do.
As he was talking about caressing her breasts, yesterday I had a dishwasher leak, and since I moved out of my home of 20 years for some other known reasons that we won't go into, I now live in an apartment. So I am broadcasting from my kitchen. I have a very big kitchen, and my dishwasher is across the way. So maintenance showed up as we were doing this.
Oh, God.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, two guys are right across from me listening to this whole thing. And I'm like, sorry, guys, sorry. I don't know what they're going to go back and tell the landlord now what I'm doing in here.
Oh, like this morning they're listening to this right now. That's why you were getting, oh, God.
Yes, I put in a work order yesterday because I had water flooding on my floor from the dishwasher. I didn't know they'd show up now, but of course they would. Yeah. So as he's talking about her voluptuous breath, they're over there dealing with the dishwasher, and I'm just sitting here going, "You guys, I'm really sorry." So they're probably going to get back to the office and go, "She's doing porn in that apartment."
I know Tony's going to have to start looking for a new place for you, like right away.
Oh my God!
You can't. We do a podcast. This is a crazy person. Okay.
Well, when I opened the door, I said, is there any way you could come back? Because I'm live on air right now. And we're talking about something really, really graphic. And they're like, no, we just really need to do this now. I'm like, okay, it's really graphic in there.
I wonder if they got to hear about the balm of light and love that he gave to her.
I don't know. I kind of just passed out a little bit for a second. Like,
I would too. I can't believe how horny this guy is. Holy crap. Like at some point, don't you finish? Aren't you just done?
Well, apparently he has a balm of light and love.
The number of times he said bottom was interesting. Loin, obviously. What was another one?
Well, some guys are ass men. That's okay.
Gyrated.
We should get him a thesaurus because I feel like he's a bit limited.
Yeah, he could use Grammarly.
Yes, I wonder if they have that in prison.
I feel like he randomly goes to a thesaurus and just inserts words at certain, because it's like very plain, and all of a sudden like big word, and then it just kind of keeps going, and then big word, and it's weird how they're inserted.
Please don't use the word inserted.
He inserted his balm of light and love all into her body.
I think, Stacy, did you hear my great line about their favorite position was probably missionary?
No, I think the maintenance people I was messing with them for a few minutes.
And they're wearing the whole Mormon get-ups too, while doing the missionary. Because really, this is a lot about dry humping. The entire thing is really.
Again, making it okay for him to do this, right?
Yeah.
It's making it okay that they didn't go all the way yet.
Yeah, it's all justifying it. It's there was another person who, in case you can't get enough of that, maybe you'd like to go to song. Another fine woman years ago released all sorts of lovely records about this. Tammy Faye Baker, by the way.
There you go.
We have some of her records.
What are you doing with that?
This is a Tammy Faye Baker record right here. And this is even better. This one has the whole family on it. So this is Jim and Tammy and the kids. You can make it. Tammy sings, and here's Tammy in workout clothing on the backside. So I think maybe she was there was a little bit of conjuring images of Tammy in that letter, I think.
I'm never going to look at you the same way again.
She's on a phone on the back. She's on a phone, right? She's calling God. Is that what it is?
Oh, that's headphones that she's wearing down,
okay.
And she's got like a sweatband on.
Olivia Newton-John look.
Yes, very much so. Yep,
very
that's exactly what she's doing.
384. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I got these at an antique store a couple weeks ago, Stacy, and it's actually the second time they've made an appearance on one of the programs. We brought them on the Real Ghost Stories online a couple weeks ago. Yeah, because and look, I don't know if everybody noticed this. Jim Baker, there's a parrot on his shoulder.
Oh God, a little Jimmy Buffett style.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
I saw them. I'm like, oh my God, that's just so absurd. I have to get them. So
sometimes that's what you see when you go into those stores. Something so crazy, I must have it.
You know, I saw. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I know I'll have a use for it. And so far, it's been brought on the air twice. They just sit on a shelf right over there.
Hang on, there's one more thing you need to do with it. You know,
play it and dance and have a party.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
We need a record player in here to do that.
Do you not have one?
Well, not in this studio. No, I don't.
Okay, well,
I have one upstairs.
I wonder if you can find them on Apple Music.
Oh my gosh.
There goes my playlist for the week.
Add it to your playlist. Yeah.
Tammy Faye. It's here. Yep, it's here.
Well, now you can listen. And
get
all the Tammy you want.
Report back to us on that, would you please? I want to know what you think.
We have a call number 4 and 5. Todd, how long is call number 4?
4 is 15 minutes.
Let's do call number. Yeah. Let's do call 4. Bob's going to be joining us in just a little bit talking. We're going to talk about the Aaron Spencer case, but he knows all about this case too. So I'm sure he'll have some interesting insights if he's joining us on the back end of this. Let's listen to this. This is again, letters from Chad. This is new. Just came out last week. This is his letters from prison to the world, telling his side of the story. Not quite as steamy, but kind of interesting. Let's take a listen. This is letter 4.
Begins with a key event in my life that occurred in 1987, early in my LDS mission to New Jersey. I was part of the first group of Spanish-speaking missionaries called to the New Jersey Morristown mission. We would be sharing the gospel message in some rough urban areas where LDS missionaries had rarely ventured before. My mission began with 9 weeks of training in the Missionary Training Center in Provo, Utah, after which our group of 6 missionaries flew to Newark International Airport. We soon met our mission leaders, Dan and Barbara Workman. We immediately felt their love and concern for us, which continued throughout my life. Thank you, Sister Workman, for your recent letter I received here in prison. Even now, you show such Christ-like support and care for your missionaries. I'm grateful for you. The next morning, President Workman introduced me to my first companion, Elder Hansen, who would function as my trainer during my first couple months in New Jersey. All male LDS missionaries use the title of elder, while female missionaries go by sister. Elder Hansen was a confident Californian who spoke fluent Spanish, while I was a timid teenager from a small town in Utah. He was the right companion to help me cope with the culture shock I was experiencing. Our proselytizing area was the industrial city of Patterson, and I soon learned the citizens weren't always friendly. As Elder Hansen and I walked through the city on the way to an appointment, I waved to a man sitting on a porch step. About 15 seconds later, a couple of apples came whizzing past our heads. Then a block later, I waved to two young boys, and they both threw a glass bottle at me. I decided waving to people might not be the safest thing to do. To reach our appointment, we had to walk through one of the city's most dangerous areas. Ahead of us, a gang of teenagers was taking up the whole sidewalk. I was praying hard for protection, and somehow we made it around them with only a few snide comments. I didn't wave. We finally reached our destination and knocked on the door several times, but no one answered. I suddenly felt exasperated and overwhelmed, and it must have shown on my face. Elder Hansen stuck his index finger in my chest, pushed me against the wall, and said, "Don't start having doubts, man. You know this is the true church and that Joseph Smith was a prophet. Are you going to let a bunch of losers on the street corner change your mind? I thought you were bigger than that." Then he started walking back to the street. I was humbled and humiliated, but I caught up with him. We didn't say a word to each other, but he had made a good point. An image of the Apostle Peter denying Jesus Christ came into my mind, and I suddenly felt very ashamed. When we reached our apartment, I went into our tiny bathroom and said a fervent prayer to Heavenly Father, apologizing for my weaknesses. Then I gave thanks for the prophet Joseph Smith, and suddenly my mind opened up. It felt like I was actually witnessing the first vision, when Joseph, as a 14-year-old boy, saw and talked with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. I felt the Spirit of God burning within me, and I knew without a doubt this event had really happened. That day I had experienced fear, exasperation, and even doubt, but then I received an outpouring of truth and comfort. We had a bold, powerful group of missionaries, and we accomplished much good in that area. Elder Hansen and I eventually became close friends, and after our missions, we stayed in touch. He later moved to Colorado, where he became a successful businessman, and he and his wife raised a beautiful family. Why did I share that experience with you? Because from that day on, I have been completely devoted to the LDS Church. I have served in many different callings, including being part of 4 different bishoprics. During that time, I was asked to assist with several church disciplinary councils that were held for members who wanted to clear up misdeeds in their lives. These meetings usually began with some awkward feelings, but I was amazed to watch loving church leaders turn the meetings into positive spiritual experiences. Expressions of support would be given, tears would be shed, and the person would feel a sense of relief, like a great burden had been lifted. It was inspiring to watch a humble church leader help a person who felt desolate and alone regain hope and faith through the atonement of Jesus Christ. With that background, it is true I am currently excommunicated from the LDS Church. Sadly, I didn't receive an opportunity to have a compassionate church leader hear my side of the story. I would have happily welcomed a visit from my church leaders during my 4 years in the Fremont County Jail, but no one ever came. Instead, I learned I had been excommunicated through the mail more than a month after the disciplinary council had taken place. At the jail, the deputies would put any mail addressed to me in a big manila envelope, which was held until my attorney's next visit. He and I would then sort through the mail together. When he visited me in September 2020, we emptied the manila envelope, and among the letters were 2 envelopes from my LDS church stake president, my local leader. I'd had a good relationship with him over the years, and I initially expected these envelopes to contain letters of kindness, support, and encouragement. However, I opened the first envelope and read a printed form letter informing me a disciplinary council would be held regarding my church membership. It felt like an arrow had pierced my heart. I took a deep breath and opened the second envelope. This letter said the council had been held and I had been excommunicated for apostasy. The letter stated I had 30 days to appeal the decision, but by that time the deadline had already passed since the jail had been holding my mail. I have still never found out what evidence was presented in the disciplinary council or who testified against me. The church scriptures known as the Doctrine and Covenants explains excommunication procedures in depth. Section 102 verse 18 reads, "In all cases the accuser and the accused shall have a privilege of speaking for themselves before the council." That obviously didn't happen in my situation. I would love to know what transpired in the meeting, but the church has resisted my efforts to obtain the records. I readily admit I have many flaws and weaknesses that I am striving to overcome, but I'm not guilty of the great sins attributed to me. The thought of associating with apostate groups or teaching false doctrine is absurd to me. Please at least let me know the specific doctrines I was supposedly teaching. Who are my accusers? When and where did I say these things? So for these reasons, I still consider myself an active member of the LDS Church. My excommunication process didn't follow scriptural guidelines, and apparently no effort was made to verify I had received the notification letters. At the very least, I deserved a chance to talk to a church leader in person and answer any accusations of misconduct. I have never felt a decrease in my priesthood power or a loss of the influence of the Holy Ghost. I have actually felt an increase in those areas, which has been a great comfort and blessing as I deal with my current circumstances. I fully support the LDS Church's first presidency and the quorum of the 12 apostles. I follow their teachings, and I am working out my own salvation through the power and grace of the atonement of Jesus Christ, my Savior. In conclusion, let me return to Elder Hansen, my first missionary companion. When he heard the news that Tammy had passed away, he canceled his busy schedule and rushed from Colorado to Springville in time for her viewing and funeral. When I saw him walk into the viewing room, my heart filled with gratitude and appreciation for this great man. As he came through the viewing line, we embraced, and I knew one of my true brothers in Christ was there to support me. We took a few moments to catch up, and he humbly told me he was serving as an LDS stake president. I wish he had been mine. Bookshelf. I have had a lot of heroes in my life, often from the world of sports. I've always been a fan of BYU's basketball and football teams, and I was in my early teens when the Cougars were really hitting their stride. Danny Ainge led the basketball team to the NCAA Elite Eight, and the quarterback factory kept churning out superstars such as Jim McMahon and Steve Young, who would both lead NFL teams to Super Bowl victories. But my ultimate hero is Joseph Smith, after Jesus, of course. When Joseph was an obscure teenage farm boy, an angel appeared to him and told him his name would be known for good and evil among all nations. Persecution intensified against him and his family, and it never let up the rest of his life. Supposed friends repeatedly betrayed him, and he endured dozens of arrests on false charges, spending many months in dark, damp, squalid jails. Yet he somehow maintained a positive attitude and accomplished incredible feats. He translated the Book of Mormon from ancient records and founded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He revealed many profound eternal truths and designed new cities, yet made time to raise a good family and care for his church members. Sadly, his persecutors finally succeeded in their goal when Joseph was brutally murdered at age 38 by an angry mob that stormed the jail in Carthage, Illinois. The church has published a 4-volume history titled Saints, and the first volume covers the life of Joseph Smith. The book reads like a novel, but it is all true. If you want to read about a great American hero, give Saints Volume 1 a try. You'll also gain an appreciation for the pioneers who later crossed the plains and established Salt Lake City in the middle of a wilderness. Musical notes. When I was an LDS missionary in the late 1980s, we weren't allowed to own electronics, especially radios. According to the missionary handbook, popular music could potentially drive away the spirit. That might be true, but in the big cities of northern New Jersey, missionaries didn't need a radio. We were literally surrounded by every type of music. As we walked along the main boulevards, the traffic would cruise past us at a decent speed, but it felt like we were listening to one continuous radio broadcast because every vehicle was blasting the same station. Over and over we heard, broadcasting from the top of the Empire State Building, you're listening to Z100. Sometimes it seemed like Z100 had captured 100% of the listening audience. About 2 weeks after I arrived in New Jersey, and shortly after my humbling experience described in the letter, Elder Hansen and I were invited to attend a wedding. It was for a couple that Elder Hansen had known earlier in his mission and would take place in Jersey City. President Workman granted us permission to attend as long as church members gave us a ride to and from the wedding. I was excited because I hadn't yet been able to see the Manhattan skyline up close. Elder Hansen said we would be a few blocks from the Hudson River with a nice view of the Twin Towers. Elder Hansen had arranged for a young couple from the Jersey City ward to pick us up outside our Patterson apartment. My eyes nearly popped out of my head as a very fancy sports car pulled to a stop in front of us. Elder Hansen smiled at me and said, "Climb on in." And we are both tall, so it was a tight squeeze for us in the small back seat. But we were soon zooming down the freeway, and I was eagerly soaking in the sights. I enjoyed seeing Giant Stadium for the first time, and I listened in as Elder Hansen chatted with the man who was driving. Then as we got closer to Jersey City, the woman in the passenger seat said, "Sorry to interrupt, but I love this song." She turned up the volume on the car's excellent sound system, and I recognized the voice of Whitney Houston, who had dominated the airwaves throughout 1986 and 1987. But this song was new to me after having been sequestered in the missionary training center throughout the summer. The woman began dancing happily in her seat and started singing along animatedly. It was quite a show. Then, when she reached the chorus, a lasting memory was imprinted into my brain. "I get so emotional, baby, every time I think of you. I get so emotional, baby. Ain't it shocking what love can do?" At that moment, I caught a good glimpse of the tops of some Manhattan skyscrapers, including the Empire State Building. Suddenly, I was the one getting so emotional. It was the equivalent of a spiritual experience as we entered Jersey City, where I would be transferred a couple of months later. In this city, I would later meet amazing people and witness literal healing miracles. But in that instant, I just basked in the wonderful realization that it was possible to have fun, joyful experiences on a mission and throughout our lives. So whether you like the song or not, I consider Whitney Houston's "So Emotional" to be a sacred hymn. I don't expect it to be included in the new LDS hymn book, but it would certainly add some life to our sacrament meetings. By the way, if you happen to cross paths with some LDS missionaries, please give them a smile and a wave. It just might be what they need. You'll make their day.
Smile and a wave, and then you break in. "I get so emotional, baby, every time I think of you."
Oh,
Bob
God.
Bonner, a defense attorney, joining us, host of the podcast Defense Diaries. Never thought you'd get an intro like that where we're jamming out to "So Emotional," did you? I don't have any audio from you, Bob. I can't hear your mic.
I think we
There
should
we go.
shut down after that beautiful performance there, Tony.
Thank you.
What else do we need really for the day?
Yeah. We've actually made the full playlist now for the Chad Daybell letters, because he has a musical notation in every one of the letters. I don't know if you had a chance to sit down and read the letters yet, or maybe, get the kids bedtime stories, just an idea, I've been doing that with Harper lately. It's like, okay, honey, it's time for a Chad Daybell letter before we go to bed.
I'm calling CPS, man. I am calling CPS.
Oh man,
She's been sick the last 2 days, so I was blaming allergies, but it might be upset stomach after hearing the Chad Daybell letters. So what we've learned so far is Chad's into Depeche Mode,
Oh,
Oingo Boingo,
oh.
the B-52s, Keen, Tim McGraw, and Whitney Houston.
Wow, quite a list.
He has eclectic music taste. I got to give him props for that.
I give Brad or Chad or Frad. What is his name?
Chad Daybell. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I give him zero credit for anything. He's a moron. That man has way too much time on his hands. Is this what we can expect now? Deep Thoughts by Chad Daybell. Is
it's
that
literally
like what we're getting?
Literally, there is a website that his daughter, I believe, is helping run. It's called lettersfromchad.com.
Wow.
And every week we're supposedly going to get new letters from Chad that he's telling his side of the story, along with little stories like it being in a taxi listening to Whitney Houston. Things we needed to know about Chad Daybell.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.